Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to our sessions on Python for AI. So let us get started with the topic that we have ended on the last D. So what is the last topic? The last session, what is the topic that we have discussed? We started understanding while loops. Under flow control statements, there are three different types. One is conditional statements, followed by looping statements, and then miscellaneous flow control statements. We have started understanding looping statements, right? In which we have discussed for loop, or also called as for else loop. Both are seen. And we have also understood the syntax for loop, right? Yes. So tell me, what is the syntax for loop? Syntax for loop or for else loop. What is the syntax? The syntax for loop is for keyword followed by variable name in an iterable object. Then indentation symbol followed by block of statements. Yes. Then we can also have else block and the block of statements for else block. Did we discuss? Yes. And we have also understood a few examples, use cases on for loop or for else loop. Is it mandatory to have else loop every time? Else block? No, it is optional. Else block is optional. Post understanding for or for else loops, we started understanding while or while else loop. Both are seen. Okay, but the syntax changes. The syntax for and while is completely different. The syntax of while loop is while keyword followed by the test condition. Followed by the test condition, then indentation symbol, block of statements. Right? And in the same way, we can also have an else block which is optional. Right? In the last class, we have discussed a few examples related to while loop. So there are few more examples. Let us quickly understand the rest of the examples with respect to while or while else loops. Right? Yes. So let us get started. I'll go back. Right. And I hope everyone is practicing. Right? See, you guys have to type the code, taking up the questions. For each and every question that you are doing, ensure that you type the code. Initially, if you type the code, later on at some point of time, you'll be in a stage to build the logic. Got it? Yes. So the next program is for generating a marks memo. For generating a student marks memo, where it is going to accept student number followed by student name. So these are the two inputs that we are going to pass. And apart from these, we are also going to pass the marks that this particular student have got with respect to the exams. Right, let us get started. So what are we doing in line number 3466? Using two functions, int and input function. Input function will help us to read the data from the keyboard, where it will display a message as enter student number. So each and every student will have a number, enrollment number. So that number has to be given by the end user. The number has to be provided, and since we are using input function, it reads the number in the form of, it is going to store in the form of str type. Okay, so str type will be used to store the number, student number. But what am I doing? Additionally, I'm also using int function so that this str type data gets converted to int. It gets converted to int. Clear? Yes. Next to it, what should we pass? We have to give the student name. For the student, we are going to generate the marks memo, right? So we should have student number and student name. So both of these are mandatory. On the memo, you should have the number as well as name. So these two we are getting from the student itself, from the end user. I'm using input function and storing them in the variables st number and sname. Right? So let me execute, guys. So let me execute the line number 3466. If you see in the console, it is asking me to enter the student number. So I'll give just a random number. Okay. Assume this is the student number. Right? Then I'm going to click on enter. You see, in st number, a variable st number, it is storing the number. But which type is being used? Int. Done. Then, in the next line, it is asking us to give the student name. So let me execute this one as well. So probably here, I'll pass next era Unitech. Okay, NUT. Then I'll click on enter. Done. So it has stored the name and the number. Okay. You see the types as well. You have to focus on the type as well, friends. Done. Now, for this particular student, we have to pass, we are coming up with while loop where we are going to pass the marks that this particular student have scored in C, C++, and Python. Okay, so if you see here, we are going to validate the marks that Nextera Unitech has scored in C, C++, and Python. Right? So let me start with C. I'm taking while loop. Okay, I'm coming up with a while loop where the syntax of while loop is while keyword followed by the test condition. While keyword followed by the test condition, then indentation symbol, right? So what does the condition say? Obviously, the condition is I'm just passing a Boolean value true. A bool value true is being used. So that means the condition is again true. So it has to execute the block of statements. The block of statements has to be executed. What are we doing in line number 3470? In line number 3470, it is going to take, we are using int and input functions, where it input function accepts the data from the keyboard, right? So it will display a message like enter marks in C. Okay, so the marks that next error Unitech have scored in C subject has to be entered. Assume that 70 marks were being scored. Assume. So what happens? This 70 gets stored in using str type. Yes. And converting back this str type to int. Okay. So type conversion, type casting is being done. So this gets converted to int. And where are we storing? We are storing it in CM. Then I'm coming up with a simple if statement, right? So in which we have, I'm using a logical operator AND. We are using a logical operator AND. What does the condition says? The condition says if the marks that was stored in CM, if they are greater than or equals to 0, if the marks, if it is greater than or equals to 0, and the same marks, if they are less than or equals to 100, then break. So when does an AND operator return true? If both the conditions are holding true. Is this condition holding true? Yes, 70 is greater than or equals to 0. True. What about the second condition? Even this is also true. 70 is less than or equals to 100. In both the logical expressions, relational expressions, as they are holding true, our logical AND operator will return true. Since the condition is holding true, it enters the if block and executes the block of statement where we have only a single statement, it is break. So obviously the loop gets stopped. That means why are we coming up with this condition? We cannot have marks as negative and the marks cannot be greater than 100. For that reason, we are coming up with these conditions. Making sense? Is it making sense, my friends? The same logic will be implemented for C++ and Python. Why did we come up with the conditions? Why did we come up with two logical relational expressions? Okay, in order to combine these relation expressions, we are using a logical operator. Why? Because can marks be negative? Can marks be less than 0? No. Can marks be greater than 100? Assume that you are writing an exam for 100. Can we score 101? Impossible. For that reason, assuming that the exams were being conducted for 100 marks, we have come up with these conditions. Clear? Right. So three while loops, each and every while loop talking about individual subject, C, C++, and Python. If you see, if you observe, For all the three while loops, the syntax is same. We did not change anything. Only that got changed is the variable. C marks, C++ marks, and Python marks. Done. Now, what I'll do is, I'll execute all these three while loops together. Let me do it. Done. Since I'm using input function in all the three while loops, so it is asking us to enter the marks in all the subjects. So I'll keep it as 70, then probably 80, but in Python, yes, we should get good marks, right? So obviously it is 90. 90. So all these marks got stored. Done. Now let me calculate the total marks, the grade. For total marks, what are we doing? I'm just combining the marks that we got in each and every subject. Marks that was scored in C plus marks that got that next era Unitex scored in C++ plus marks that Python, next era Unitex code in Python. We are just combining all of these three to calculate total marks. So it just performs addition, friends. What will be the output? 10, 20, 30. So probably 240. Am I right or wrong? Yes. So this is the overall mark that next era Unitech have scored. Then we should also calculate the percentage. Yes. We are calculating the percentage using the logic total marks divided by overall marks. It is 300 multiplied by 100. So this will give me the marks percentage. So this is calculated as 240 divided by 300 into 100. What is the percentage? It should be 80%. Right? Since I'm using division operator, I'll get a float value. I'll get a decimal value as an output. Okay. So once after calculating total marks and the marks percentage, I should also define the grade. I should also define the grade of the student next to Unitech. For that, I'm again using a if-else statement. I'm using if-else statement in which we also have if-elif statements. What do we have? So let us understand. For the first, in the if statement, I'm keeping the condition for fail case. In any one of the subject, it might be C, C++ or Python. If the student scored less than 40, it is a fail case. So you see here, in total, we have three relational expressions. We have three relational expressions which got combined using logical OR operator. So if any one of the condition, if it is true, the output will be fail. The output will be fail. But did Nextera Unitech fail? No. Nextera Unitech did not fail. Why? The marks that was scored in C, C++ and Python, all of them are greater than 40. They are not less than 40. Right? So Obviously, as this condition is false, the condition that we have in the if statement is false, it jumps into the else block. It skips the if block and jumps into else block and start executing the if statements. Again, we have defined the conditions, right? So what are the conditions? Let us have a look, my friends. If the condition says the total marks are less than or equals to 300 and if the total marks are greater than or equals to 250, then the grade will be passed in distinction. The grade will be passed in distinction. Since I am using AND operator, so this is true, but this is false. The first condition is holding true, whereas the second condition is holding false. So output will be false. Then, as a condition that we have in the if block is not satisfied, it skips if block and jumps into the first elif block. Right? What about the first condition? Are the marks less than or equal to 249? Yes, this is true. Because 240 is less than or equals to 249. Then the second condition says total marks greater than or equals to 200. 240 is greater than 200. So in both the cases, we have true as the output and I'm using AND operator, right? So AND operator will return true here. It will return true. So what will be the output? The output will be passed in first class. Passed in first class will be the our output. Making sense? That is how, the grade gets calculated. We are calculating marks followed by percentage. Then we are also finalizing our grade, student's grade. So all of these logics that we are using, it might be while loop, then followed by if else statement, is just to, calculate that marks, percentage, and the grade. Right? But did we print the memo? No, we are supposed to do it. We are supposed to do it. Before that, I'll just execute all these lines in a single go and see what happens. It got executed and the grade is passed in first, got stored in grade. Done. Now, our job is to display the marks memo. We are supposed to display the marks memo. So whatever we have calculated, it might be grade, then percentage, then total marks, student name, student number, each and everything has to be displayed. Simple. That's it. So I'm using print function. And what are we doing in line number 3499? So printing asterisk mark 50 times. What is this operator? Multiplication operator. Right? So the star gets printed for 50 times. Then what gets printed in the next line? 3500 line. What gets printed? It prints tab space followed by student marks report \t, while character which represents tab space. Right? So let me execute. So what did it print? It print student marks report with tab space. Then again it is going to print star for 50 times. Then in the next line we are using print function to print what? A message in which we are also performing formatting. So what gets printed? Student number. Where do we have student number? This one. 456987 gets printed. Student number 456987 gets printed. Then in the same way student name gets printed. What it is? It is student name colon NEUT gets printed. Then the marks that NEUT obtained in each and every subject gets printed from starting from C. Student marks in C colon 70 gets printed. Student marks in CPP colon 80 gets printed. Student marks in Python colon 90 gets printed. Then, we are printing hyphen for 40 times. Just printing hyphen. All the information we have displayed with respect to the marks and the student name and the number. Now, we are going to display the marks on the memo, the total marks. It is 240. Right? 240 got printed. Then, what are we going to print in the next line? The marks percentage. 80.0 gets printed. See. And finally, we are also going to print the grade. Done. Clear? Now, at a single time, I'll just execute all these lines. All the lines starting from 3499 till 3512. So you will have an understanding about the student marks report. See, this is my student marks report. A basic memo? Yes. Is it complicated? No. We just use the concept of flow control statements in which we used both conditional as well as looping statements followed by operators. Did we also use operators? Yes. We use logical operators as well as relational operators. Even assignment operator was also being used. Right? Then what else did we use? We use some functions like int and input. Anything else did we use? Nothing. And we also use the function called print. See, I'm able to print student marks memo. It's a basic one. Okay. In this way, you can build the student marks memo. How simple it is. But in order to build such kind of reports, initially a lot of hands-on is mandatory. Okay. So without hands-on, no, you cannot expect to be good at Python. No. Right? So sincere advice, you are supposed to work on hands-on part. On daily basis, ensure that you are typing the code. Only then, your Python skills will start growing. Right. So with this, we conclude while loops, while else loops. Let us go and discuss, the next topic that we have in loops, looping statements. It is inner or nested loops. Inner or nested loops. Did we discuss If else statements? Yes. Under if else statements, we have also discussed inner or nested if else statements. So in the same way, go for a wild guess. What do you mean by inner or nested loops? What exactly is the meaning for inner or nested loops? Inner or nested loops is nothing but, defining one loop inside another loop. Within a loop, you have a loop defined in which there is one more loop. So this is called the concept of inner or nested loops. Inner or nested loops. In simple, loop inside other loop. Yes. One loop inside other loop is inner or nested loop. Okay. So here we can have multiple combinations, friends. We can have a for loop inside a for loop, for inside for, then within a for loop, can we have while loop? Yes. This is one combination. Okay. Within a while loop, can we have a while loop? Yes. One more combination. Within while loop, can we have for loop? Yes. All of these are accepted. Different combinations. We know that we have only two looping statements in Python. One is for and other one is while. For is also called as for else. While is also called as while else. And in both the cases, else part, else block that we have is optional. Right? So we are going to understand all the different combinations. All the four combinations we are going to understand, friends. Okay? So you have to pay attention. When it comes to the behavior of a nested loop or inner loop, for every value, for each and every value of the outer loop, inner loop executes repeatedly for finite number of times. Okay. So for each and every value that outer loop has, inner loop will execute repeatedly for finite number of times. Loop itself, what is the purpose of using looping statements? They help us to perform an operation for finite number of times until the condition becomes false. Since we have two loops in the picture, for each and every value of the outer loop, the inner loop starts executing for finite number of times. Right? So let us discuss with some examples. Probably then you can have a clear understanding about how inner or nested loops work. Right? Yes. So I'm coming up with a inner or nested loop. Okay. So what is the combination? What combination you observe here? What combination do you observe here? Come on, friends. It is a for loop inside a for loop. It is a for loop inside a for loop. You see, this is a for loop for and else loop, in which we have inside again a for else loop. So this is our outer loop and this is our inner loop. Probably I'll represent the loops in different colors. So this is my outer loop and this is my inner loop. Inner loop. Outer loop. Right? Now try to understand. It's very simple. It is not that much complicated. Okay. So try to understand, friends. What are we doing? I'll start from the outer loop. Okay. So initially the syntax for the for loop is for variable in iterable object. For what is a variable? I. In what is the iterable object that I'm considering? It's a range object. Range of 1, comma 6 will return us the values from 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Right? So I takes each and every value from these elements. Initially I takes 1. I takes 1 and it goes inside the block of statements. It starts executing the block of statements. It prints hyphens. Then what it is going to print? It is going to print a message in which formatting is being done. Value of val of I outer for loop is equals to what value we are formatting? I value at this position. Right? So it will the output will be val of I outer for loop is equals to 1. Then again it will print hyphens. Yes. Then in the next line what do we have? We have again a for loop. For loop inside a for loop. Right? So this is the inner loop. You see here this is the inner loop. Again, is it following the syntax? Yes, it is following the syntax. For variable in iterable object, range of 1, comma 4 will return what? It will store the values from 1 till 3. 1 till 3 gets stored and initially the variable j will take the value of 1. It will take the value of 1. Right? Then it enters the loop and starts executing the block of statements. It executes the block of statements where it prints tab space, then val of j inner for loop is equals to which value is getting formatted? The value of j. So the output will be val of j inner for loop is equals to 1. 1. Are we done? No. Then j takes 2. J takes 2. Again, tab space val of j inner for loop is equals to 2. In the same way, j is equals to 3. J takes 3 and it prints val of j inner for loop is equals to 3. Simple? Yes. So in this way, are we done? Then it comes to the else block and prints, all these values. The hyphens gets printed and it also prints out of inner loop. Then the I value gets updated. I takes 2. In this way, I takes 3. I takes 4. Then I takes 5. All the values gets repeated. Is it clear? Simple, but we have a inner loop, or the concept of nested loop is being used. We are using the concept of nested loop. Right. So I'll do one thing. I'll execute this entire statement, the entire program. Just have a look. See, initially, this is what it got printed. Value of I outer for loop 1. Then it goes to the inner loop and it prints val of j inner for loop 1. In the same way, it prints till 3. Then it also prints whatever we have in the else part, else block, out of inner for loop. Then the value of I gets updated to 2. The same repeats. Again, the value of I gets updated to 3. Again, the same repeats. The value of I updates to 4. Same is getting repeated. And finally, the value of I updates to 5. Again, the same gets repeated. But additionally, you'll also see, these two lines get executed. Why? Once after executing the complete for loop, it comes to the else block and it executes line number 3527 as well as 3528. The hyphens followed by out of outer for loop gets printed. It gets printed. Clear? Is it clear, friends? Right. Now, let us go to the second combination. Let us go to the second combination. What are we doing here? Is it an example for nested list? Sorry, nested loops? Yes. It is an example for nested loops, inner loops. What is the combination? The combination is while inside for we have while in for. So inside for loop, which loop do we have? We have while loop. We have while loop. So will you answer the question? What will be the output? I'll give you enough amount of time. Will you answer the output? What will be the output for this particular program where we have a while loop inside a for loop? Okay. For that, I'm going to give a hint. Okay. So I takes the values from 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. But here, do we have a range object? No. It is not a for loop. It is while loop, my friends. So if you are using a while loop, initially we will have an initialization part where we'll have a variable getting assigned with a value. Initialization. J equals to 1. We are initializing J. Then we'll come up with the syntax of while loop. While keyword followed by the test condition. J less than or equals to 3. So initially the condition is met. Okay. Then followed by we have an updation part. The J value gets incremented. The J value gets incremented. So what will be the output for this while in for loop? I want you guys to respond. What will be the output? Will the output be same? Yes, the output will be same, friends. Or will the output change? What do you see? I'm taking a for loop inside which we have while loop. Only if you see the syntax got changed. But if you consider the output, are we going to get the same output that we got in the previous case? Are we going to get the same output or not? See, initially I takes 1. Okay, what will be the output? The output will be val of I outer for loop is equals to 1. Then it starts printing val of j inner while loop is equals to 1. Then the value of j is getting incremented, updation. So the next output that we get is val of j inner while loop is equals to 2. Then in the same way for 3. Once after you get the output, it just prints hyphens as well as out of inner while loop. Again it go and it takes I takes 2. In this way, you'll get the same output, my friends. There is no change. I takes 3, so on. So let us execute and check. Are we going to get the same output or not? Yes, it is the same output, right? I takes 1, J takes 1, 2, 3. Then I takes 2, J takes 1, 2, 3. In this way, for each and every value of I, the inner loop, which is while, get executed for finite number of times until the condition becomes false. The while loops keep on executing. It is the same output. Clear? Right. Now let me go to the next case. I'll change the positions for in while. We have for loop inside while loop. So come on, friends. Be active. What is the outer loop? The outer loop is while loop. This is our outer loop. What is the inner loop? Inner loop is for loop. This is our for loop, which is inner loop. Inner loop, for loop is also called as for else loop. Yes. So previously we had while in for. Now I just replace the positions. For in while. We have for loop inside while loop. Now, what will be the output? What will be the output for this case where we have for loop inside while loop? Yes, take time, understand the code, and let me know your answers in the chat. Will it be the same one? Will it be the same output or not? Exactly. We'll get the same output. Why? Because even though if you are replacing the positions, I am also changing the conditions. See, under while loop, where we are initializing the value for I is equals to, initially we are taking I value as 1, and the condition that we have in while loop is I less than or equals to 5. So initially the condition is satisfying for I equals to 1, and it starts executing the block of statements. So it prints val of I outer while loop is equals to 1. Then I equals to 1 gets printed. It enters the for loop, where the j value will be initially 1, because range of 1 comma 4 will be 1 2 3. It's an iterable object which stores only positive values, positive integers with an increment with a step size. So 1 2 3 will be stored in this iterable object. So j takes 1 and j equals to 1 gets printed. Then j equals to 2, j equals to 3. Once after completing this, I value gets updated. You see here, I value is getting incremented by how much? By 1. So 1 plus 1 is 2. In this way, the output will be same. There is no change in the output. But what do you see the difference? I see the difference in the code. While in for got converted to for in while. The positions of the loops were being interchanged, but still the code, but still the output is same. So let us give a try. Let us execute. Done? Yes, it is. Let me scroll to the top. Yes. From here, I value 1, j equals to 1 to 3. I value 2, j equals to 1 to 3. I value 3, so on. It is the same. No change. Clear? Right. We have one more case where we can also have, while loop inside while loop. We can have while loop inside while loop. Isn't it? Yes. Even that is a combination, right? So let us use a while loop inside while loop. So far we have understood three different cases: for in while in for. So this is the fourth case where we are going to understand while in while. While in while. So try to understand the code, okay, where we have a while loop inside a while loop. We have a while loop inside the other while loop. So what will be the output? Will the output be same in this case as well? Yes. So while inside the other while is also considered as nested loops, inner loops. Even here, the output will be same. How come? I'm just adjusting the conditions accordingly. When I'm using while loops, ensure that you are also, initializing a value to the variable followed by the updations. See, these updations are mandatory. especially when you are using while loop in the picture. But when you are using for loop, are these required? No. For loop, iterable objects are required. The syntax is for variable in iterable object. So iterable objects are required. That makes the difference. Clear? So let me execute this one as well. We should get the same output, my friends. Right. Done. Is it the same output? Yes, it is the same. No difference? Probably, these while and for gets replaced. That's it. Apart from it, with respect to the values for I and j, the output is same. In all the cases, for infer, while in while, for in while infer. In all the cases, the values of I and j are same. Clear? Right. Now, we have an example for, we are going to understand a Python program. So where this generates multiplication tables for list of values. For a list of values, we are going to generate a multiplication table. For this, we are using all the concepts under flow control statements. Isn't it? Yes. What are the concepts that we discussed so far? We discussed conditional statements, branching statements. Yes. Conditional statements were being discussed. We are using conditional statements. If else statements. If else statements were being used. Apart from conditional statements, we are also using looping statements, in which we are going to use, what are these? Nested loops, for loop inside a for loop. You have a for loop inside a for loop, right? Let me show you the program completely once. Yes. Now let us start understanding the program. So it is asking us, initially I'm using two functions in the line input and int are the functions. So it is asking us to enter how many values you want to have. Okay. So within the list object. So let me execute and I'll just keep it as 3. I'm keeping it as 3. Then the first if block says, if the value for n, if it is equals to or less than 0, it will print, the number for the n is invalid input. Anyhow, the condition is false here. So it skips if block and enters else block. In else block, we are defining an empty list using list function. What is this? List function. How can we create empty list in Python? What are the different ways? We have, everyone have to respond. What are the different ways we have in Python to create an empty list object? We have two, yes, good. We have two approaches. One is using list function. If not, use empty square braces. Any one of these two will create an empty list object and we are storing it in a variable lst. Any one of these two accepted. Then I'm defining my for loop. I'm coming with the for loop says for I in range of 1 comma n plus 1. So which means range of 1 comma, what is the value that we have passed for n? It is 3. 3 plus 1 is 4. So what range of 1 comma 4 will be 1, 2 and 3. 1, 2 and 3. So I takes initially 1. I takes 1 and it enters the loop, for loop, where it starts executing the block of statements. So what gets printed in line number 3587? It prints enter one value because I value is 1, right? So the values that you would like to have in this list has to be entered and they get appended to the list object. It's the same concept. Creating an empty list, then we are appending the values to this empty list. Okay, so when you execute this block, this particular for loop, enter value 1 gets displayed on the console. We are supposed to enter the value and that value gets appended to the list object. Then again, I takes 2 now. As I takes 2, it prints enter 2 value. Then the 2 value has to be entered. It gets appended. The second value. I takes 3. In the same way, third value also gets appended to the list object. Then the else block starts executing. It is a for else loop. Okay, so it prints the list of elements. The list gets formatted here. So the list of elements gets printed along with the list objects, the list elements. Then we are coming up with the logic for the multiplication table. Okay, for n in LST. So this is the outer loop where we have inner loop. See, what does it say? For n in LST, that means n takes each and every value present in this list object. How many values we have? 3 values. So initially n takes the first value. Okay. Anyhow, if the value is less than or equals to 0, it says an invalid input because multiplication tables, you're supposed to get it for positive integers, right? It enters the else block and starts printing the table. The same, code that we have discussed for printing a multiplication table for the given number. The same code. Clear? Now, I'll do one thing. Let me execute this code together. I'm going to execute the code together and see what happens. So it is asking us the values. Enter one value. As we are going to get the multiplication tables, pass only integers. Okay, so I'm going to pass values. I'll keep it as 30, then 50, and the other one is 86. 3 random values I'm giving, friends. Then I'll click on enter. That's it. You see, immediately it has given us the multiplication tables. After giving the values, it also printed the list of elements where here. This line, you see it here. Then hyphens got printed. Next to it, it will print again hyphens. Yes. Then it prints multiplication table for the first value. It is 30. And you'll see a multiplication value a table for 30. In the same way, a table for 50 and a table for 86. So what did we do? We have previously understood how a multiplication table can be printed for any given positive number. I took the same logic. And we have used the concept of nested loops, inner loops. Okay, so for each and every element present in the list object, we were able to achieve the multiplication table. In the same way, even though if you have 100, or if you have 110 or 100 values in this list object, for each and every value, it will create a multiplication table. It prints a multiplication table for the value. Got it? Yes. Now, one more program. So this particular program is related to reading the values from the list object, finding the sum and the average of the values. Okay, the same concept, but there is a change. We are using again the list objects. Okay, then finding the sum of the elements that we have in the list object, followed by the average of the values as well. So this is the code that you see here. Right. So let us understand initially, friends. Let us understand. So using int and input, so it is asking us how many values do you would like to have? I'll just give it as 3 values. Okay. So I assume I'll take very small values. 10, 20, 30 are the values that I'm going to pass. Okay. Is n value less than 0? Is it is equals to 0? No. So this condition being false, it skips the if block. It comes to else block and starts executing line by line. Initially, we are creating an empty list object and we are using for loop to enter the values. How many values are we going to enter? 3 values. 10, 20, 30 get enter here. They get appended to this list one by one. Then what are we doing? To find the sum and average, I'm initializing a variable s is equals to 0. Then I'm using, for loop to calculate the sum. How? It takes each and every value. Val takes each and every value present in the list object, initially 10, that gets printed, and the value that is present in val gets added to s. That means 10 plus 0 gets stored in s. So the value of s gets updated. In the same way, in the next iteration, val takes 20. So 20 plus 10, it is 30. In the third iteration, val takes 30. 30 plus 20 is 60. Sorry, 50. Right? So in this way, what's happening? Sorry, this is my bad. This has to be 30, right? So in total, you'll get the output as 60. Some of the values got stored in S. Some of the values got stored in S. In the same way, we'll also calculate the average. How are we going to calculate average? You see here, in the else block, we are printing sum followed by average. How am I getting average? Yes, divided by length of LST. The logic is, what is len of LST? Length function which returns size. So 60 divided by 3. As we have three elements, three values inside the list object, it returns 3. So 60 divided by 3, the output is 20.0. But to which decimal I would like to have the output? I just kept it as 0.3. So I should have the value written till 3 decimals. The output will be 20.000. Okay, so let me execute all the lines together. Initially, it will ask us to enter the values. So pass the values 10, 20, 30. 3 random values I'm taking, friends. Did I pass 4? Oh, sorry. Let me do it one more time because n value was different, right? So I'm just passing how many values to be entered is 3. Done. Now I'll execute this entire program together. All the lines are getting executed one after the other. So where it asks to enter the values 10 followed by 20 followed by 30. Is this the output? Yes. This is our output 60.0 and 20.000. Simple, friends. Clear? Right. Now let us go to the next topic. It's a very small topic. Okay. So it is miscellaneous flow control statements. Under flow control statements, we have in total 3 types. Conditional statements, looping statements, and the third one is miscellaneous flow control statements. Okay, in Python, we have 3 types of miscellaneous flow control statements. They are break, continue, and pass. They are break, continue, and pass. Let us understand one after the other, starting with break. Because we are using all these statements in our loops, right? So let us understand the purpose of these 3 statements one after the other. The first one is break. Break statement. What is the purpose of using a break statement in Python? Break statement, helps us to terminate the execution part. The loop can be terminated when you have a break statement inside a loop. Okay, but when based on a certain condition, if the condition matches, if the condition holds true, the break statement helps us to terminate the loop. The execution part of the loop can be terminated based on a certain condition. Here we have the syntax, the same. Inside the for loop, just use break keyword. Inside the while loop, you use a break keyword. Okay, so since in for loop we'll not have a condition, we'll have a simple if statement in which we'll have the test condition. If the test condition holds true, okay, so if it is holding true, it will go inside the if block and it has to execute break, right? So the break executes and it terminates the loop. The loop gets stopped. And in the same way, for the while loop, we use again a if statement And if the condition holds true, it enters the if block and executes the break statement, and this ensures that the loop gets terminated. Very important, especially when the break statements are executed in the loops, the else part for both for and while loop will not execute. The else part that you have in both for loop and while loop, they don't execute. When the break statement execute. But in general, if you have a for else loop, initially after executing the for part, it enters the else part and it executes the else block as well. But if you are using break statement inside the loop, and if it is getting executed, the else block will not execute. No. So this is an understanding of break statement, right? So let us quickly understand a few examples, very small examples related to break statement. So what are we doing in line number 3635? In 3635, we are storing a sequence of characters next to a Unitech in an object S, right? So str is the type that is used to store next to a Unitech. Yes. Then we are using a for loop, and what happens if for the first for loop, what will be the output for the first for loop within the code? It will print each and every value, each and every character present in Nextera Unitech along with the tab space. Tab space, then the value. Tab space, then the value. This will be repeated for all the characters. So you'll get all the characters in this fashion. N, E, X, T, E, R, A, so on. Right? Yes. Then it prints hyphens. Simple. Till here it's very simple. Now we have one more for loop in which we have a break statement is being used. In which we have a break statement being used. So first of all, what does the for loop see? For val in S. For val, okay, in S. What is S? S is an iterable object. Okay. So val takes each and every character from Nextera Unitech. Then inside the for loop, we have a simple if statement and we have a condition. If val is equals to h, if this condition holds true, it has to execute break. It has to execute break. If the condition is not holding true, it prints the val again. Whatever the character gets printed again. So what will be the difference that you observe between the first for loop and the second for loop, in which we have the break statement? What will be the difference? Good. In the first for loop, it prints all the characters present in Nextera Unitech. Yes. But in the second for loop, since we have a condition, we have break statement along with inside a for loop. So what is the condition says? If the value for the val, if it is h, capital H, then the loop gets breaked. It executes break statement. So initially, I don't see any H, no H till C. But in the last character, when val takes H as H is equals to H, capital H, right? So it enters the if block and executes break statement. Immediately the break, it terminates the loop as the condition is met. It does not print H. Apart from H, all the other characters will be printed. Clear? So that is the only difference. Anyways, let me execute both of them. So storing, then printing. You see, we have all the characters next to Unitech printed. Yes. In case of first loop. Then coming to the second loop, will not find H in the output. You will have only the output till C. You need TEC. Why not H? Because the condition holds true. As the condition is met, it enters the if block and executes break. Break is a statement which terminates the loop, which breaks the loop, and no other lines of code executes. Simple. Now, one more example, but this time we are doing it on a list object. What is the size of the list? It is 7, 3 plus 4, 7. Yes, 7. Now, I'm using for else loop, okay, in which we have break statement. So, will you guys give a try? What will be the output? What will be the output here? Size of the list is 7. What will be the output? The output will be. So what it is doing, friends? Initially val takes 10. Okay, is the condition met? No. So it prints val, it prints 10. In the same way, it prints 20. It prints 30. It also prints Java. But will it print Python? No. When val takes Python, the condition is met. As the condition is met inside the if block, it executes the statements that are present in the if block where we have break. So it breaks the loop. It terminates the loop. Okay. Then will it come to the else block? No. That's what we have discussed. Within a loop, when the break statement executes, it does not execute the else block. Then and there it stops. But it prints the end of the program. It prints end of the program. Why? This print line, the print function that we have, line number 3652 is not part of this for else statement, for else loop. It is a separate line. Okay. So it prints end of the program. But I am from else part of for loop will not be printed. No. Why? Because of break getting executed. Right. So let me execute. End of the program gets printed. But now, in this case, it will not print end of the program as well. It prints only 10, 20, 30 Java. Why? It is part of line number 3652 is part of else block. Clear? Right. Now, let us discuss about continue. A few more examples for continue. The next statement that we have in the sequence is continue. How does this continue statement help us? What is the purpose of using continue flow control statement? Continue statements, they help us to continue the execution of the loop. The loop can be executed as it is by taking the Python virtual machine to the beginning of the loop when certain condition is taking place. So when the condition is holding true, okay, so what happens is this continue statement takes the PVM to the beginning of the loop without executing the statements that are written after the continue statement. So you will have a few statements before continue, after continue, yes. So you will have statements before continue as well as after continue, right? So whenever a condition is met, whenever a certain condition is taking place, this continue statement helps the PVM, to continue the execution. The loop will be continued as it is to the statements that are written on top of it, but not on the bottom of continue statement. For better understanding, we'll also discuss a few examples, right? Yes. So these continue statements to be used in loops. So inside loops only we are going to use continue statements. But the difference that you observe between continue and break is when you use continue statement in a loop, even the else part that we have in for loop and while loop, they get executed. Okay, they get executed. But in case of break, the else block, the statements that we have in the else block, they don't execute. But in case of continue, they execute. Yes, in short, it skips the current iteration. Okay, so this is the detailed explanation for continue. Probably we'll take an example and understand how continue works. Right? And if you see the syntax for continue. So within the for loop, we have continue, right? And in while loop, we are also having continue statement, right? So let me take the example. So what are we doing in line number 3674? I'm storing NEUT in S. So str type will be used to store NEUT, sequence of characters. Then I'm using continue statement inside a for loop in which we have a simple if statement as well. So now let us understand how continue works, guys, practically. So initially, val keyword, val variable takes n, yes, because val is a variable which takes each and every value from the iterable object. Then it enters the block of statements and it checks for the condition that is present in if statement. Is the condition holding true? No, it is false. N is equals to U. No, false. So it just prints the value. So that is N gets printed. Then the value for val variable gets updated to what is the next val? It is E. So again the condition, it checks for the condition. Is the condition met? No. So it prints E. Now the value for val gets updated to U. The value for the val get updated to U. Is the condition holding true? Yes. U is equals to U. The condition is true. It enters the if block and executes the block of statements where we have continue statement, which means the statements that we have down to it will not get executed. It takes the Python virtual machine again to the starting position. Okay, so that means it does not print U in the output. So what happens? Immediately the val takes the value of T and checks for the condition. Is the condition holding true? No. So it prints T. What will be the output? The output will be NET. For this for loop, the output will be NET. Let me execute. It is NET. With a tab space. Anyways, we are using \T. Yes. Clear? Now, will you try for the next example? The next one. What will be the output for the next for loop in which we have continue keyword where we are trying to store Python? Okay, so I'm taking a str type data as an iterable object. I want you guys to answer what will be the output. But if you see here, our condition is a bit complicated. It's not complicated. If you understand, it is very simple. If the val is y or if the val is h, okay. So what kind of operators are we using? We are using relational operators, that is equals to, and we are also using logical operator or. So what will be the output? When does a logical operator or returns true? When any one of the condition, if it is holding true, or operator returns true. So what will be the output? In case of y, the condition will hold true. So that means it will not print y. Again, in case of h, again the condition will hold true. So that means h will also not get printed. Apart from y and h, rest of all the characters P, T, O, N will be the output. Good friends. Good catch. Right? Maintain it. And I want you guys to respond for the next one. Next example. This time we are using for else loop. In the previous cases, we just used only for loop. This is for else. Understanding how continue works in case of, whether the statements that we have in the else block, they get executed or not. What will be the output for, this program where we are taking a list as our iterable object? What does the condition say? Our condition says if the value, if it is less than or equals to 0. So that means wherever the condition match, it is holding true. In which cases it hold trues? Negative values? Yes. All these are less than 0 only. Right? So for these numbers, for these integers, it does not print the value. So it prints only 100, 150, 450, 67 and 456. Only this? No. It also prints from else block of for loop will also be printed. Why? We are using continue statement. It is not break. Very, 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 very important. Because everyone understands, how continue works and how break works. But in case of break, the else block will not be executed. But in case of continue, the else block get executed. That makes the difference. Right? So let me execute, friends. We will get only the integers which are positive. And the message that we have in line number 3692. Clear? Right. Last example. Trying continue statement inside while loop. I'm trying continue statement inside while loop. So first of all, what is our condition? Condition says if I less than length of LST. What is the length? 3, 3, 3. So that means 9. Okay, initially it is satisfying, so it enters. It enters. Then we have a simple if statement. Okay, so what are we doing here, friends? LST of I. What concept it is? Indexing. LST of I is 0. So accessing 0th element from the index 0th element from LST. It is 100. 100 less than or equals to 0. So this is false. This is false. As the condition is not holding true, it does not enter the if block. It comes to the else block and it prints the value, and even the value of I is getting incremented. Right? So what will be the output? In this way, do it for all the cases. 100. Again, the same topic. It is the same condition. Instead of using the value directly, we are accessing the value using index. Good. So again, we'll get only the positive values, and we'll also have the message in the output. Done? Yes. So I hope the difference is clear. Right. Good, guys. I hope it's very clear with respect to, The differences between break and continue statements. So any questions for the D? Any technical questions or non-technical questions? Even the questions, if you have any kind of questions with respect to internship, feel free to ask. And if you find that the session went well, hit on the like button, friends. And do subscribe to our channel. Share these particular videos across your connections. Ask them to learn Python. Yes, hit on the like button. A kind of encouragement that you get, that we get from your side, right? And even in future, if you know, we'll come up with interesting content, right? So hit on the like button. Any questions? Internship, the ongoing internship, or today's content? And I want everyone to practice. If you don't practice, there is no use, right? You have to practice on daily basis. Type. At least solve 4 to 5 questions. Start from basic, then increase the level. Go to moderate, then advanced. Sure, sure. We'll work on it, my friend. We'll work on it. The last one, this one, right? See, I'm using the same. We are taking a list object in which we have in total 9 elements, 9 values. Okay. So I'm using continue statement in a while loop. Inside a while loop, we are using continue statement, right? So what are we doing here? What does the condition says? If the value of I less than of length of list, what is I? I is a variable. So initially, we are initializing I to 0, right? So 0 less than 9. The condition met. So it enters the while loop. Once after entering the while loop, the first line that you see is simple if statement, in which we have again the concept of indexing. What is the condition? The condition that we have in the if block is list object of the value, okay, the I value less than or equals to 0. So LST of what is the value that we have for I? Initially it is 0. So LST of 0 is 100. Indexing 0, 1, 2, 3, so on. I hope you remember, right? So this is 100. 100 less than or equals to 0. Is the condition true? No, it is false. 100 is greater than 0, right? As the condition is not met, it does not enter the if block. It skips if block and comes to else block and prints the value. It prints the tab space along with the value. Then the I value gets updated. The I value gets updated. What happens? It is 0 plus 1. So now I stores, the value of I will be 1. Right? Again it checks for the condition. 1 less than 9? Yes. So it enters the block. It enters the loop. It checks for the condition that we have in the if statement. LST of 1. What is the value for I now? It became 1. So LST of 1 is minus 200. Minus 200 less than or equals to 0. Yes, true. True. Minus 200 is less than 0. As the condition is holding true, it enters the, if block, the value of I gets updated. So it is 1 plus 1. It is 2 now. And we have a continue statement. So continue statement will help the PVM to go back to again the starting position of the loop. Okay, without executing any lines that we have down to the continue statement. Okay, now I value became 2. In the same way, it checks for each and every value present in the list object. So in short, it just returns only the positive integer values will be given as output, and additionally, it also prints line number 3704. It returns 3704 as output. Why? I'm using continue. Continue statement helps us to execute the statements that we have in the else block. Is it clear? Yes, only the positive values. Thank you. Thank you for your responses. And moreover, even I felt the same because you guys were interacting, right? So when you interact, we can make the class very well. Right. Thank you, friends. Thank you for your feedback. Any other questions? Right. One last point that I would like to communicate. Okay. So friends, this 22nd, May 22nd, we are going to start Python paid course. Okay. A batch is going to start on 22nd of this month. Okay. If you are really interested to be part of that batch, okay, in the feedback form, you'll have a question regarding the paid course of the Python program. Okay. So just keep it as S. And the good news that you hear is for this batch, you have a discount of 80%. 80% is what it is going to, you're going to get the discount, and the course is available at just 2000. For 2 months, you will be learning Python. Okay. So if you are really interested to be part of the batch, just in the feedback form, when you are giving your feedback, for the question that was asked regarding Python course, Python paid course, keep it as S. Thank you. Thank you so much. I hope it's very clear, right? So do use this wonderful opportunity and be part of the Python paid course as well. A few more advantages, a few more benefits you have when you are part of that particular course, right? So do utilize this opportunity, my friends. Yes, the feedback link has been provided. Please give your valuable feedback, and genuine feedback is what we are expecting from you. Thank you so much, friends. Give your feedback.